this evening's meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the Township of Union, which is being held pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Law C-231 Laws of New Jersey dated 1975. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the local source and the Star Ledger, the newspapers of record, and notice has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building adjacent to the municipal clerk's office. Roll call, Mr. Manguso.
Mr. DiGiovanni's absent. Mr. Howe is absent. Mr. Wiley.
Here.
Ms. Alexander.
Here.
Ms. Martins.
Here.
Mr. Bentavegna.
Here.
Ms. Scott is absent. Mr. McNeil.
Here.
And Mr. Champy.
Here. There being a quorum present, this meeting is now declared open. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of the June 22nd, 2022 meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the meeting minutes of June 22nd, 2022 be approved as written and dispense with their reading.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, let it be known that I didn't attend that meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Wiley. So we had an all in favor, so moved. Are there any communications?
There are no communications.
All right. Continuing on. Our first order of business this evening is calendar number 3398, New York SMSA Limited Partnership, 2400 Morris Avenue, Block 3911, Block 26. Install 3 new antennas on the existing wireless station, and this evening we're going to carry it for the resolution of approval. You've all had a chance to read the resolution. Are there any board members at this time who would like to comment or make changes or modifications to the resolution? Hearing none, may I have a motion for the approval of the resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I move that this board adopt the resolution as read and modified as accurately memorializing the previous findings of this board.
I second.
Roll call.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
Ms. Alexander.
Yes.
Ms. Martins.
Yes.
Mr. Bentavegna.
Yes.
And Mr. Champy.
Yes. Continuing on, our next order of business is calendar number 3400, 515 Lehigh Avenue, LLC, located at 515 Lehigh Avenue, Block 708, Lot 11.01, and it's in addition to a warehouse. Mr. Hale, would you like to begin?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and board members. Great to see everyone. Hope everyone enjoyed the floor. You know, when I was looking at this prepare for the project, I was reckoning back to when I was here with almost like a history lesson with Jaeger Lumber and the history. And looking back at this site, because I grew up not too far from here, but for years, Speedy Car Wash was there, and my friend Frank and his son Anthony, they bought it and now have renovated the car wash, and there's no changes proposed with respect to that portion of the site. And in fact, they also have the adjacent building they own, and that's where part of their company operates out of. The left-hand side, where the warehouse addition is proposed for years, again, that was that Jayco fuel oil that was there for years, and I think from the 50s that was there. And they subsequently moved out, I believe, in 2017, and that's when Frank and Anthony and his family purchased the property. And what we're proposing here, when it was the portion when it was Jayco, they had storage on the left, warehouse storage, when you're looking at the site, when you go in on the left-hand side, and then storage and warehouse on the right, and then the center portion where we're looking to add on to was offices. What we're looking to do here is to turn it into a rentable space for small warehouse, say a contractor that can keep product in these locations. So we're just looking to bump it out a little bit. It's a permitted use in the zone. We're here before this board because the car wash, which is technically not permitted, is going to remain. But again, what we're proposing is permitted use. And frankly, the intensity of an office use is much more than this small contracting or warehouse type use. We don't have a particular tenant yet. There is an existing tenant, and Anthony Dominguez, who will testify, will give us a little background. And so that's an overview. We have received the comments. There's no negative comments from any departments. The Collier's letter we have no problem complying. That they requested a couple of items like the survey and the like, and a lighting plan. We'll supply whatever. We did speak to Phil. We'll supply whatever they need. And actually, even looking at technically, there's a couple of space parking variants, but that's when they adopt the master plan, which the planning board in 2 weeks is going to do their review. They're actually reducing the warehouse parking from 1 space for every 1,000 square feet to 1 space for every 3,000. So this is probably, if the board is kind enough to approve this, it's probably more of a technical variance because the parking requirements are going to change. So that's an overview of the application. What I'd like to do first is to call upon Anthony Dominguez to talk a little bit about, and I'll call him up there. I think it's his first time testifying, but his father said that he'd get used to doing these type of things. So, by the way, he's got a long
for the
history.
record, and
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I did mark A1, the application as it
Great.
was submitted for the record, and A2, the site plan consisting of 6 pages from the Nader Design Group. So A1 and A2 for the record is part
Great.
of the
Thank you,
proceedings.
Mr. Pansola. So you're going to be sworn in now?
Yeah, can the witness hear me? This is Rob Pansul, the board attorney.
Yes, I can.
Can I ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you can provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
If you could state and spell your name for the record with your business affiliation.
Anthony Dominguez, Anthony Dominguez.
And Anthony, you're one of the, you and your dad, partners in owning this property along with the adjacent building, which, again, you have your offices in.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. And your grandfather lives in Union, too, right?
Yes, he does, yeah.
Okay. All right. You've heard my opening statement. Just a little background on the previous history of this property and what you propose and why this expansion is necessary. I know we talked about in preparation that, frankly, with that narrow office space, getting rid of the office and make it usable. So tell a little bit about why the expansion, and I know it's a small expansion, why that's necessary.
Yeah, so if you, in the back right of the property, we have the existing warehouse there that we currently lease to a plumbing contractor, a small plumbing contractor. And what we're basically doing is just extending what used to be office space to the same elevation of that building. And like Steve touched on, it would really be primarily used for or rented out to smaller contractors that maybe just have one van to be parked inside or just need, a little bit more space for material to be stored and stuff like that.
Yeah. And there's proposed to be no changes in the operation of the car wash, correct?
That's correct.
I know since you acquired it, and again, as I mentioned years ago with Speedy Cars, you've invested money and effort into it to make it a modern car wash with all modern equipment and the like.
Yep, yeah, we renovated the car wash once we bought the property, and it's not really busy during the week. Our busier days are Saturday and Sunday for the car wash, so there really won't be a conflict with the tenants, that are normally operating Monday through Friday.
Okay. And the existing office space, I know we talked about, again, preparing, just turning that into warehouse, it's not deep enough or wide enough to have the van or any equipment stored in that. Is that correct?
Right, yeah, the office space that is existing, you wouldn't be able to fit a commercial van in there. So by extending it out, matching the elevation of the existing warehouse, we'd be able to park a commercial van or store more material in there.
Okay. And you've indicated the type of tenant would be, let's say, a small contractor or someone needing some warehouse space?
Yes, yep.
Okay. And I've also indicated there was a question as to how it's going to function because the parking is in front of those, and probably similar to the way the plumber operates now. Just explain how that would work.
Yeah, so normally, the contractor that we do have renting from us now, he just drives his day-to-day car from his house, comes to the site, will pull out the truck that he's going to be using for the day, and then park his car in the parking spot in front of the garage door, and then upon return, he'll just kind of, do the opposite of that, pull his day-to-day car out, pull his commercial vehicle in, and close up for the day.
Okay. And you've had an opportunity to review the report from Colliers. You have no problem in supplying, I think they requested an update on the lighting plan and a copy of the survey and the like. And I also and our site engineer will touch on it, the addition of a second ADA parking space?
Yeah, I have no issues with
No
any of that.
problem with any of that? Okay, thank you. I have no further questions of Mr. Dominguez at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Dominguez. Are there any board members that would like to question the testimony that Mr. Dominguez has given?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dominguez, I actually did a drive-by. It looks like there's a sign shop there in that area. Are they staying, or?
Yeah, so we have a month-to-month lease with basically just a sign company. They come in, you know, they aren't renting from us now. They do have some material stored, but once we build the warehouses, they will no longer be renting from us.
So it's month to month, or? Are
Yeah,
they-
it's a month-to-month lease, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other board members that would like to question this witness? Hearing none at this time, we'll open it up to the public. Are there any members of the public that would like to question the testimony that Mr. Dominguez has given? Hearing none, Counselor.
Thank you, Anthony. Yes,
Thank
I'd
you.
like to now call upon our site engineer, Paul Covey. And Sal was kind enough to put our plans up there already, so we're in good shape.
Mr. Corbett, can I ask if you can raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do so swear.
If you could state and spell your name for the record with your business affiliation.
Sure, my name is Paul Couvret. The last name is spelled C as in Charlie, O-U, V as in Victor, R-E-T-T-E, and I am with the Nader Group, ASA, out of Hackettstown, New Jersey.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Mr. Cravetta, if you could please give the board, just briefly, educational, work background, areas of expertise, and licenses you hold, and whether you've been accepted as a professional in engineering.
Absolutely. I received a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from the University of Delaware in 1988. I immediately went into practice as a site engineer. I've been practicing since then. I have provided expert testimony in many municipalities. I don't believe I've been here before. The projects I've worked on have ranged from something as simple as a minor subdivision to being the site engineer for a 1.2 million square foot entertainment complex. And so some 30-something years of experience.
We'll accept this credentials.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Mr. Cravett, you've heard my opening statement, the testimony of Mr. Dominguez. If you could briefly take the board through the site plan, and again, Sal was kind enough to put it up on the board for us.
Yes, and
I guess
you'll
TV.
forgive me if I'm a little unfamiliar with this particular system. You'll notice on the plan that, as has been said before, the existing car wash is to remain exactly as it is today. The parking spaces that are shown on the plan to the left of the building are the same parking places that are there now. There is no change proposed there. The improvements to the site are on plan left, as we've been talking about. If you'll notice, in 3 of the proposed units, there is a cross-hatched area. That area represents where the building will be expanded horizontally, and that the building will be expanded out to be in line with the existing warehouse that is in, I'll say, the extreme rear or top left of the site. That section of building will also be raised vertically to match the roof line of the other two buildings, one at each end. And that'll allow for, the 3 spaces each with an overhead and man door to provide access into the central courtyard of the site. To the bottom of the site, there is presently proposed on the site plan 1 ADA compliant space. One of the comments raised by the town engineer was that 2 spaces are in fact required that are ADA compliant. It would be easy for us to add that additional space to the right of the hatched area. Circulation for the site, circulation for The car wash will again remain exactly as is. The cars will enter from Lehigh Ave, go straight through the car wash, exit to the rear, and then return back out the driveway. The circulation for the rest of the site, they will just enter to the left of the car wash entrance and maneuver in the area in between. The new distance between the perpendicular parking spaces on the left-hand side of the property and the angled parking spaces at the car wash is approximately 36 feet. That allows for circulation of vehicles much larger than passenger cars, typical of the septic trucks that are parked there when I took a drive-by myself this evening. What else did
And I think you've had an opportunity to review the Collier's letter. Do you have any problem from an engineering standpoint complying?
No, none at all. There is just an item regarding stormwater that was requested that we address. And I concur that the project is not a major development and does not require the more stringent stormwater management devices and control. As a larger project or a project that would change the drainage patterns of the site. And in this particular site, all of the roofs go to a leader to the ground, and the runoff sheet flows to the rear to a ditch on the Conrail property. From about the front of the car wash to, if you would, up on the plan, and everything from about the front of the car wash sheet flows onto Lehigh Avenue. That situation will not change with the improvements that are proposed. Those drainage patterns will be maintained.
And one other item that they requested was a lighting plan. You have no problem putting together a lighting plan to be reviewed and approved?
There is a lighting plan actually as part of this set. However, let's see. And the lighting plan indicates that there will be two new wall-mounted lights shown as it is on this particular sheet above the doors of two of the proposed new warehouse units.
And we'll confirm that that's acceptable to Collier's. I have no further preliminary questions.
Are there any board members that would like to question the testimony that Mr. Paul Corrett has given? No. Hearing none. Are there any members of the public that would like to question the testimony that this witness has given here this evening? Hearing none.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to now call upon Casper Huizinga, who is our architect, to briefly take us through the floor plans and elevations.
Can I ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
If you could state and spell your name for the record with your business affiliation.
So, Casper G. Huizinga, it's Huizenga.
And if you could give the board the benefit of your work, educational experience, area of expertise, and licenses you hold.
Sure. Master's degree in
You might have to
architect-
speak a little closer into the...
Master's degree in architecture and licensed in the state of New Jersey since 1998. I do light commercial, light industrial. Excuse me? Oh, sorry. Light commercial, light industrial, and residential architecture. So,
The board will accept this.
Great, thank you very much. All right, again, you've heard the testimony so far this evening. If you could take the board briefly through the architectural floor plans and elevations, and they should be...
okay. How do I work this thing?
Sal can give you a hand if you,
Yeah.
Pen's helpful.
or sometimes they say, find the youngest person in the room,
And that wouldn't be me.
and
Don't
you'll have
look
to
this-
call.
Don't look this way.
There's another, down further. Yeah, the last two sheets are the building. There we go. That one. Yep, okay.
Can
we
you
good.
just zoom out your hand?
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks, Sal.
So these are the elevation drawings, the exterior views, the 4 different sides of the building. If I could just go back, maybe start with the plan. And we can see the lower area is hatched again. That's the additional horizontal addition to the building. And then, so we're lining up the other garage doors across the front. And then we're adding bathrooms and a small mezzanine in the back also, so for some extra storage up above, because it's a pretty tall space after we're finished. The roof then will line up with the existing roof on the higher building, which is to the right now. And that's about it. If I could just go, yeah, so if we can go to the elevations, you can see that, so we're lining up that whole roof across the top. And so from the street, you'll see the left elevation above the horizontal one-story section. The higher level then is the new part. So we get a new painted concrete block wall, basically.
So as we see in the lower elevation, it's basically squaring off the building and having that part of the frontage kind of mirror what's there to the right already. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's about right.
And under the floor plan, it's, other than the bathrooms, it's just general warehouse storage,
Yes.
eliminating the existing office space.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, I have no further questions at this time.
That's about it.
Are there any board members that would like to question, pardon if I mispronounce your name, Uzenga,
It's close.
and the testimony he has given? Hearing none, at this time, are there any members of the public that would like to come forward and question the testimony that this witness has given here? Hearing none, the next
Great.
witness.
Yes, I'd now like to call upon Mr. Nicholas Graviano, planner who I know you all know very well.
Mr. Graviano, can I ask you to swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
If you could just state and spell your name for the record with your business affiliation.
Yes, Nicholas with an H, last name Graviano, G-R-A-V as in Victor, I-A-N-O. I'm a planner and partner with Graviano and Gillis Architects and Planners with a business address of 101 Crawford's Corner Road in Holmdel, New Jersey.
And Mr. Graviano, I think you've testified numerous times before this board. Your planning license and all your other licenses are still in full force and effect?
Yes, my planning license is still valid, yes.
The
Great.
board will accept it.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, Mr. Graviano, you've obviously heard the testimony, well familiar with the site, the fact that we're here before this board because of the existing car wash, which is not changing. But if you could please address the relief being sought in connection with this application.
Certainly. The applicant is before you this evening requesting preliminary and final site plan approval as well as a D1 use variance and associated C variances to construct roughly a 1,200 square foot addition to an existing commercial building which lies on the site. The subject lot is located in the I/040 industrial zone, which permits the use that the applicant is choosing to expand this evening. As Mr. Hale indicated in his intro, we're here because the car wash is not a permitted use in the district, and the applicant is not making any changes to the car wash use on the site. The applicant is requesting 3 new variances as well as numerous variances which are related to the existing conditions of the property which are not being affected by this application. I'll get into the D1 variance first. This is almost more akin to a D2 expansion of a nonconforming use variance. But since the car wash has existed for quite some time, the history of the granting of the approval of that car wash was done a considerable amount of time ago. So I'll go through the D1 use variance proofs for this application. The applicant must demonstrate both the positive and negative criteria. With respect to the positive criteria, the site's certainly particularly suited for the proposed use. It's housed a car wash for a considerable amount of time. It's located in an industrial zone adjacent to an existing railroad right-of-way. There's no residential structures or uses abutting the site. So it's certainly a site which is appropriate for the car wash use, which has existed for decades. Moving on to the purposes of zoning, it advances purposes of zoning in the municipal land use law, specifically Purpose A, promotion of the use of lands that will promote the general health, safety, and general welfare, and that's done by numerous reasons. One, it's creating a clear and delineated parking area with delineated spaces. It's providing the proper amount of ADA spaces to meet the needs for the uses on the site. And additionally, as this board has seen through numerous applications along Lehigh Ave over the years, the applicant is improving the building in a site in a way which is meeting the needs of the current industrial and commercial user, which is of benefit to the general welfare of the Township of Union by creating something which is in demand in today's commercial market. It also advances Purpose G to provide sufficient spacing and appropriate location for a variety of industrial and commercial uses to meet the needs of New Jersey citizens. This proposed expansion of the warehouse building is a permitted use in a zone. This site is certainly an appropriate location for the location of such use. Lastly, it advances Purpose I, the creation of a desirable visual environment, creative development techniques. As you heard in the engineering and architecture testimony, the applicant is providing an integrated building with a consistent facade and consistent roof height, which certainly is an improvement over the aesthetics of the current building, which is located on the site. There's no substantial detriment to the master plan or zoning ordinance with the granting this variance. The car wash is an industrial use in an industrial zone, and I think it's certainly consistent with the industrial nature of the zoning district. In terms of the two variances, C variances that the applicant is requesting this evening, specifically for the distance between the new building and the parking area, whereas 10 feet is required, the applicant is only proposing 5 feet. It's certainly appropriate in a small-scale industrial area to have the parking within the vicinity of building in this nature. Certainly not a substantial impairment to the zoning ordinance with the minimal amount of spaces which will face this condition. Secondly, the applicant is requesting a modest 3-space variance from the township's parking requirements. 31 stalls are required, where 34 stalls are required, whereas 31 are proposed. That variance certainly could be granted under the C2 criteria, advancing the purposes of zoning A, G, and I, which I identified in the use variance testimony. And as I'm aware, the township is proposing some parking requirement changes, and the site, once those changes are adopted, would actually conform to the township's parking requirements. As indicated on the July 6, 2022 Collier's letter, there are existing conditions variances related to the lot area, rear yard setback, side yard setback, impervious coverage, parking distance between the building and parking in the front yard area. All of those conditions exist today. They are not being changed whatsoever by this application. So in that context, those variants certainly can be granted under the C1 criteria due to an extraordinary situation uniquely affecting a specific piece of property. That specific piece of property in this case is an existing industrial and commercial complex. Those variances can also be granted without substantial impairment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Graviano. No questions at this time.
Are there any board members that would like to question the testimony given by Mr. Graviano? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question the testimony that Mr. Graviano has given? Hearing none.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, we have no further witnesses at this time.
Would any board members like to make comments?
And again, if there's no public comment,
Right,
just...
I know that.
Yeah,
but
I'm sorry.
I have to ask.
Yep.
Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this application? Hearing none? Would you
Yeah, I'll
like to
just
sum
very
up?
briefly sum up. As I said, there's a lot of history with this site. The changes that are proposed here are really just making good use of an existing building. It's a very modest expansion. In fact, eliminating unusable office space, I mean, to try and lease out that small area of office space and making these separate units, it's an improvement to this property. It certainly functions and will function well, and it's a further investment by the Dominguez family into the Township of Union. I think that the testimony is clearly supported the relief that we're seeking, and we request that the board grant this application. The improvements to the property occur and have some new uses in this older type building. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Okay, at this time, I believe we can conference this. Mr. Benavenga, would you like to begin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, based on the testimony given, I see no negative impact on this application. I actually think it's gonna, in my opinion, improve the appearance of the property. So I'm gonna vote yes tonight.
Mr. McNeil?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would agree that I don't see any adverse impacts on the approval of this application, so I intend to vote yes.
Mr. Weil?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I agree with my colleagues. I think the site is well suited for the use. I don't see anything negative. I think the positives outweigh the negative at any point. Most of the conditions are pre-existing, and I'm going to vote yes.
Ms. Martins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on the testimony provided today, I think this is a clean, straightforward application, so I will be voting yes.
Ms. Alexander?
Yes, I also agree with my colleagues. As they said, no substantial detriment to the project, and, you know, expanding and beautifying a project already is something that's good, not only for the person that's submitting the application, but good for our town. I think it's a good application, and I'll be voting yes.
Thank you. As for myself, based on the proposed plans and testimony given this evening, the applicant has proved and justified the variance is it's like a no-brainer, real good, clean application. The improvements that are requested will have no negative impact on his property or the neighboring property owners. So I too will vote yes for this application. At this time, can I have a motion and a second?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board grant the variance applicable to this application, and that council is directed to prepare a resolution consistent with the board's decision.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Ms. Alexander?
Yes.
Ms. Martins?
Yes.
Mr. Bentavegana?
Yes.
Mr. McNeil?
Yes.
And Mr. Champy?
Yes.
August 24th, Steve, will be the next available meeting, August 24th, because we have the break in between.
Well, thank you very much, and have a great night, and really appreciate the board's
too.
time and consideration this evening.
Nice seeing you, Steve.
You too.
Mr. Graviano.
Mr. Chairman, there being no further business coming before this board this evening, I move we adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.